Hello there. I'm Courtney and I have Kayla here with me, and we will be presenting on the effect of weather on mood and motivation, which is the study we performed this semester. So, to begin and introduce our study was inspired by seasonal affective disorder, which is defined as a form of depression where an individual has depressive symptoms at a specific time of year and full remission at a characteristic time of year. So we wanted to specifically not look at seasonal affective disorder, but symptoms related to seasonal affective disorder or SAD. There are two subtypes of SAD, which include winter SAD and summer SAD. However, winter SAD is more common and more prevalent than summer SAD. Females and young adults also are commonly affected by SAD compared to males and other groups. Seasonal affective disorder is a very active research field in general. However, there is a lack of research in the college demographic, which is one of the reasons why we wanted to pursue the study we did. Some of the symptoms of SAD include lower motivational levels, increased appetite, longer duration of sleep, and negative mood. And we specifically looked at lower motivation levels and negative mood when researching the participants. The premise of our study, like I said, it emphasizes weather's effect on mood and motivation levels, specifically in Truman State University's undergraduate students. Full disclosure, we were not diagnosing any of the participants with SAD. We were fully just looking at how weather and seasonal months affect college students' mood and motivation levels. Our variables, independent variables, included weather and gender, and the dependent variables included mood and motivation levels. The purpose of our study was to, again, address the gap in research literature and look at the college demographic. We wanted to see how weather or seasonal months affected the mood and motivation levels of undergraduate students based on gender specifically. So our first hypothesis was college students will display negative moods and lower motivation levels in the winter months compared to the other seasonal months. And the second hypothesis was females will display a negative mood and lower motivation levels during the winter months compared to the other months.
All right, for our method, we had a total of 190 participants in our study, which exceeded our goal of 40 to 60. However, we decided to exclude a few from our research. We had 6 non-binary participants that we excluded due to it being too small of a sample size compared to females and males. We had 8 female participants that left answers blank, so we decided to exclude their data as well. Therefore, our total number of participants tested is 176. Our participants were all undergraduate students here at Truman and were recruited through the SONA system. The average age of participants was 20.2. Our ratio of females to males was very large, as 152 of our 176 were female, meaning we only had 24 males. Also, our study was predominantly white. 148 out of 176 participants were white, meaning our study is not very representational of all college students. For our materials, we had 2 self-report surveys utilized through Google Forms. We made our own 5-point Likert scale that we used for our second hypothesis in testing mood and motivation based on gender. An example question would be, I tend to skip class more when it is cold outside, and participants would choose strongly disagree, disagree, neutral, agree, or strongly agree. Our second scale was based on Terman and Williams' self-assessment of personal inventory for depression and SAD. And an example question is, mentally, I tend to feel worse in, and then participants could choose as many or few months as they felt fit the statement. We also used SPSS software to run our statistical analyses. For our procedure, participants signed up through SONA and receives instant access to the Google form. Before taking the study, participants reviewed an informed consent document and were asked to accept the conditions presented. If participants did not agree to our terms, they were sent directly to our debriefing form and not asked to answer any questions. After the consent form, participants were asked to go through each item of our 5-point Likert scale and then go through 8 questions from the scale based on the month of the year. Participants ended the study by filling out a demographics questionnaire. Finally, the participants were sent our debriefing form. Participants were not required to answer any questions and could skip if they felt uncomfortable or for any reason. Our study was designed to take no longer than 30 minutes. For our second hypothesis, we ran 2 one-way ANOVAs, one on mood and one on motivation. The mood ANOVA did not produce significant results, but the motivation was significant since it was below 0.05. Next, we look at the means of mood and motivation based on gender. In the case of motivation, female mean was higher than males, therefore supporting our hypothesis. The mean for mood for females was also higher, therefore it did not contradict our hypothesis or past research.
For the first hypothesis, we ran a chi-square test on the months of the year questions, in which the significant value was 1.724, which is greater than 0.05. So this did not support our hypothesis. The reason why we ran a chi-square test on the months of the year data is because we had to code it as binary data. So our operational definition was that if the participant marked 2 winter months and or had majority of winter months, they received a 2. However, if the participant had 1 winter month marked alone or a majority of other months combined marked, then they received a 1. This allowed us to have a reliable scale and essentially run a chi-squared test, which in the end did not produce significance, which did not support our first hypothesis. Also, based on the tables, we saw that our second hypothesis was supported in the motivation aspect, but not the mood aspect. Okay, in terms of discussion and interpreting our results, like we saw on the chi-square test table, hypothesis 1 was not supported. This could be attributed to the fact that college-age students do experience stress all year round. College is very high demanding and very stressful. And also participants did show longer sleep during summer, which is what an observation we noticed when converting our data. And this could essentially be linked to no classwork and no school during that season of summer.
For our second hypothesis, we are unsure why mood did not produce significant enough data while motivation levels did. However, college students tend to have more struggles with mental health than other age groups. College students are under high stress and pressure, which may support low motivation levels.
One limitation of our study was the ratio of females to males that we had. Of the participants, 86.3% were female, and the total number of males was only 24 participants compared to the 152 participants that were female. This made the data less representative of males. One of the independent variables we looked at was, in fact, gender, so a larger amount of males would have been preferable. But the participants were also primarily white with a percentage of 84.1%, which we already talked about. And again, this just makes the data less representative of college students as a whole. Another large limitation we faced is the data of one of the surveys that we looked at for our first hypothesis was very difficult to run statistical analyses. In the questions where participants chose the months that best applied to the statement, it was very difficult to transfer this over to statistics due to the phrasing of the questions. So for example, the first half of the questions were negatively phrased. For example, mentally, I tend to feel worse, and then we listed the months. But the second half of the questions were positively phrased. So for example, mentally, I tend to feel best, and with the list of the month. So essentially what we had to do to make the data reliable was code it as binary data and discard the positively phrased question. This made it easier for us to run statistical analysis, but it may not have been the best method. Discarding the second half of the questions reduced the amount of data we could test. So this again was another limitation. And a suggestion for future research would be to use the positively phrased questions, but only allow participants to choose one season rather than choose as many months as possible.
Our study contributes to the research that females are more likely to experience lower mood and motivation levels during winter months. This also helped draw awareness to the lack of a college demographic and helped contribute to the field as a whole. Our study could potentially be used for seasonal affective disorder research and could be replicated with hopefully more representation in the future.